This is Dan Max at EXP Realty, and this is how to buy a second home and rent out your current residence.
This is Dan Max at EXP Realty, aka the trading agent, and the purpose of this video is to talk about an interesting subject to most homeowners: how to buy a second home and turn your primary residence into a rental. I have run into this question a ton. Folks are always curious what might be the best thing to do. Well, I thought I'd do a quick video, hopefully quick, on just some of the things that you need to think about and where to start from. So let's get into this. The first thing you really need to decide is, do you want to move? If you love your current house, are you going to regret leaving it? That's the question. If not, guess what? I got plenty of videos, content on real estate, markets, and trading you can check out on the channel. But let's move on next to about, hey, what if you were going to move? First things you need to think about, is your current house too small? Is it too big? Are you looking to leave the area? Then keep in mind, this video should be a good starting point for how to move forward next if you're going to turn into your primary residence, your current home, into a rental. All right, step one. Do you have 20% of your home's worth to put down on a mortgage? So 20% of the future home you're going to buy, do you have the cash or the capacity to get 20% of that value available for the bank? So there are programs that can help you get away with less, but I would consult a loan professional to see what your options are. And if you are ready, it's time to talk to a mortgage loan officer. I recommend talking to Sam Skipworth at Cross Country Mortgage. He has my trust, he does my deals, and he's very familiar with the process. So he is my guy. He was who I would talk to. And again, his info will be in the description below, but if you're not in the Denver area, reach out and we can also find you a great mortgage loan officer. So next, if you have the cash to put down to turn your primary into a rental so you can buy a second home, here are some of the things that you need to think about next. What would your current home rent for? When you're applying for a loan, the lender's going to potentially use Form 1007 from Fannie Mae. The purpose of this is to determine what's the going rate for your current home if it's turned into a rental. I mean, obviously that's important to the bank, right? The key is to get 75% of your rental income to cover your monthly expenses. If so, then the bank won't count those expenses against you on your monthly debt-to-income ratio, which is great. You're free and clear to borrow. And so an example of this is, say you rent your house out for $1,000. As long as your monthly expenses don't go over $750, which would be 75% of that $1,000, then you're good. So let's move on. Now that you're qualified to buy another home, call me. Let's talk first. Do you know a realtor who specializes or at worst knows what kind of properties in your area that would be a deal for your rentals? Again, not all agents are the same. Not everybody knows specific markets. If you're unsure, keep in mind, I work for EXP Realty. We have a network of 70,000 agents worldwide. With our systems, I can easily find and vet an agent that fits your need for investing. And if you use the agent I refer out to you, you'll have two agents helping you in the process, two for the price of one. I will be there to help you, and also you'll have someone locally to help you out. So, next, what we need to do is verify the Fannie Mae comps are correct and make sure we're 100,000% sure locked in to a solid rate of return if our primary residence is a rental. We want to know, hey, if you do turn this into a rental, the Fannie Mae numbers were legit. So, for all intensive purposes, an experienced real estate agent should confirm such for you. Once you feel comfortable with a number that would work for you in your current home as a rental and having the cash down to purchase the next property, we should absolutely start your home search. So, when starting your new home search, we need to think about a few things. What are your goals, your timelines, and your needs? All of the same relative important factors when buying a new primary residence, but just be aware, the timelines are such when you move out of your place and move into the new place. You're going to have to figure out how to get your current property rented, aligning with your new purchase. So, know the market and the seasonality of such so that you can maximize the rental income. So example, I tell people, if you're going to move into a new home, trying to rent your primary residence in the middle of December during the holiday season, it might not be a good time to do such because you might not have a lot of people searching for homes. So that's just the nature of the beast. So let's go next. Also, here's another thing I'd recommend people. Check out biggerpockets.com. They have a ton of resources to do for yourself real estate investors. I know a lot of people who are not familiar with this process would love more of an online resource. That's a great place to start. Bigger Pockets has tons of podcasts, lots of informative articles, chat rooms, all sorts of stuff. So, all right, so the next thing we also need to do is talk to your accountant or your tax professional. What you might find out is the best way to structure your rental investment might differ from others. Being a landlord, the income made, the managing the property should be understood from the tax benefits and goal perspective. So that's for you and your accountant to talk about. I'd love to advise you, but please don't take my word as gold. I'm not an accountant. So keep in mind there are many benefits of investment property ownership, the reoccurring passive income, the tax breaks, the write-offs of the expenses. I mean, it's an asset that it hedges inflation as well. And I guess the knowledge, that the homes will always be in need. I always tell people, no matter what happens in the markets, people need a place to live. With all the positives of real estate investments, just make sure a few things before you get really deep into the process. One, the current mortgage you're taking out, can it be transferred into an LLC without a due on sale clause? Seems obvious, but maybe you change your mind and you become some sort of real estate investor who owns tons of properties. It'd be nice to be able to move it into LLC later. Also confirm the mortgage allows you to rent out the property for the mortgage is for, obviously. Be aware of the HOAs and limitations in areas for Airbnbs and rentals. Every place is different. For example, Denver, you can't run a Airbnb unless it's at your primary residence, which is incredibly frustrating. And also keep in mind homeowners insurance for the property. I would also recommend that you ask your tenants to have their own renter's insurance. We don't want to be liable for their stuff if something happens. That should be on them. So now that you figured out where to get your mortgage, you talked to your real estate agent, you met with your accountant, you figured out what you can afford, we need to think about now who's going to manage the property. This is the final piece. Now, are you going to manage it or pay a property management group to do it? The typical property management group will charge anywhere between 8 and 12% of your monthly income on your rent. So, for example, if the rental is $2,000, they're going to take around $200 a month, somewhere give or take. And just also be aware they have different fees. If they're going to find the tenant, they might charge 1 month of rent just to find that person, make sure they're a good fit. And then another thing to keep in mind is that if there are ever any repairs, things that need to be fixed, they're going to do it, but they're probably also going to upcharge you on that, and that's going to be more expensive because they have to pay someone who's their employee who works for them. It's just, again, all the expenses are just a little higher if the property management group is taking care of it. So if you're lucky enough to be close enough to the rental, I'd look into managing it yourself. Finding a tenant and managing yourself is a major cost benefit, especially if you just have one property. And so with that, here are some things you need to keep in mind if you're going to rent out your current home after you move. Who are you going to let rent it? Obviously, you need to do a thorough screening, which includes a background check of every adult over 18 who will be living there. We want to see their employment history. Ideally, it's very stable. We want to know their rental history. You'd like to talk to previous landlords. Did they pay on time? How was the house when they moved out? How was the overall experience? You want to do a credit check, no doubt. Make sure they have the history of paying their bills. You also might want to pull some personal references. Sometimes talking to people that are related to these folks will give you a good idea of whether the story lines up. They are who they are. You never know. And lastly, I like to analyze their income and make sure they're making at least 3 times the amount of rent you charge a month, and more if needed. So if your rent is $2,000 a month, I want to make sure they make 6, 7, maybe even $8,000 a month, just to be safe. I know that's a lot, but tough times happen. If people can barely make enough to cover the rent, you might have problems later collecting it. So, all right, before I let you guys go, here are a few things, think about if you're managing your property as well, just little things. Online payments from the tenants, they're a nice way of doing things. You don't have to worry about things getting lost in the mail. Keep good records. Have separate accounts, bank accounts for everything. When you do your taxes, if you have all your income and expenses and deposits and separate accounts, you can keep things nice and organized. You know where the rent goes. You know where the account pays for. You don't have, an accident mix things up. You're not sure what pays, where expense went for what, your primary residence or your rental. It just keeps everything clean. So when it's time for taxes, you can just submit it all very simply. And lastly, just keep in mind, rental expenses are tax deductible. Even if you have the property management group, that will be tax deductible. It's just there's a lot of tax benefits. Again, talk to your accountant or spend more time looking into it. Maybe another video. Ask me and I'll do another video about it. I hope this has been informative. If you have questions, thoughts, concerns, really, please reach out to my team and I'd love to help you out and be glad to walk you through some of the process, put you in, like I said, put you in touch with an agent in your town, in your area that can, thoroughly do what they need to do to help you find these investment properties. Because again, not every agent's the same. Some specialize in certain things. I love investments. So please like, subscribe, and check out the other things on the channel. Tons of stuff about the markets, trading, and real estate. So on that note, I appreciate it, and thanks for watching.